again, and welcome back to 1813 Fair Warning. I'm Kevin Steele, and I'm joined this time by Roy West, the candidate for Mayor of Beaumont. Mr. Roy, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Kevin. It's quite a process. I'm enjoying the process. But, you know, it's like many things that you get in for the first time. You don't really know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
But I'm enjoying it.
You have been a very successful businessman in town. You have a tremendous success, as many know, in terms of your business. You've never had public office. Why are you the best man for the job in the context of having no experience in public office?
That's a fair question, Kevin. You know, part of it is the office that I'm seeking is Mayor of Beaumont. Mm-hmm. You know, having observed city council and been a resident here, I was born here in 1960, so I've been around for a number of years. And as you said, I have a business that I've been managing for a number of years, have a radio show, get to interact with a lot of people. And when I'm watching the council, I've seen what happened with our city council, and there's a lot of dissension on our council. I think there's a good bit of complacency too. And I'm not throwing shade on anybody that's currently serving on council. I'm not running because I dislike anybody. I'm running because I want a better Beaumont. And Beaumont's been good to me. I have 5 adult children, 4 of which that live here. 2 of them that live here are married, and another one's engaged. I've got 6 grandchildren, 4 of which live here in Beaumont.
And so you've watched the goings on at council over the years, but you haven't just jumped in, say, as a council member
Right.
or at any point. Why is that?
Well, quite honestly, it's time. And, 4.5 years ago, I brought my son-in-law into the business to start to manage the business. But our business is a day-to-day operation, and it's 9 to 10, 11 hours a day when you're managing it. So it took a while for him to get his feet. He's doing a great job now. So it has allowed me the flexibility of putting in the time that it takes. It's not that I didn't have an interest or care about our city or our school district or any of that, but you only have so much bandwidth in life.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have the time to be able to do it. And so
do you have the time now to do it?
I do. And it took me some time to get that arranged. And we also entered different seasons of life. And I've brought my son-in-law into the business, which is I'm gonna use this as kind of what I'm seeing with city council is he had his MBA. He'd been in the concrete business. He'd been a district manager. He wasn't in the mortgage business, but he brought a lot of fresh ideas, new energy, and he's done great with it. And I'm appreciative for what he's done. And sometimes you need change because you need fresh perspective. You need new ideas, and having a business. As opposed, city government, it's all about vision. I mean, in business, if you don't plan for the future, if you don't see where you want to be, you're not going to get there. And I think our city has lost vision over the years. I don't know where our vision is for 3 to 5, 7 to 10 years from now. But you've got to have metrics. You've got to be able to measure whether you're hitting those goals. And I think a lot of that is currently absent just because of complacency of having people on council for a long time.
Do you have a skill set that would when the critics say Roy West will be this kind of mayor, how do you answer them?
Well, I think the reason I'm running is I think it starts with relationships. It's whether it's in business or whether it's in politics, being mayor. You've got to build relationships with the community. And that's something I've been working on for over a year now, because it was about that time that I began looking to run for mayor. And all the way from certainly everybody on council, but also to across the community and different community organizations, to some of the trustees at BISD.
Well, do you need experience to do the job of mayor well?
I believe I have the experience to be the best mayor, or I really wouldn't be running. I would step aside if I thought any of the other candidates were more qualified. And it's not that I respect all the candidates and appreciate them that they are running. Mm-hmm. But I think my experience serves me well. And I also think one of the things about the radio show, and of course what you do here, is you have to learn to listen to people. Mm-hmm. And I've had that opportunity. The radio shows taught me that. My business has taught me that. So you've got to hear the needs of the community to be able to respond to them.
And well, two things. What are people telling you about what they think is the number one need of Beaumont or some of the top needs? And then if you would dovetail that into the question of what you find as the number one theme for you, if you were to become mayor, what would you sort of tackle first?
Well, it's a perfect question for me because I think a big problem that I hear is people are tired of all the infighting on city council. My question would always be, what's best for Beaumont? It's not best for Beaumont when we're bickering on council, because it doesn't matter who wins the argument on council. Beaumont hasn't benefited from that. So we need to get back to the business of Beaumont. And I think that starts by working harder on relationships and building relationships. And it doesn't mean that you have to like in terms of be best buddies with everybody there, but being able to be civil, show each other respect, and hear each other's viewpoints and be willing to be changed by them. And that's something that's learned, but I also think you lead by doing that. And I think we can all, if people are very familiar with city council, if they watch council meetings, they can see there is a lot of division and complacency on council.
And how does the mayor work into that role? Like, what could you do specifically to advance the cause of more unity on the council? You certainly can whisper in the ear of this council person or that council person, but at the end of the day, can you change the climate overall?
Well, yes, I believe that you can. And one way that I've learned in the mortgage business, which is how I make my living and how I have been making my living, is people get frustrated often. Whether you've got buyers, you've got sellers, you've got realtors on both sides, you've got title companies, you've got insurance companies, you've got appraisers, you've got surveys. There can be issues. And reminding people of the task at hand. When you're doing a mortgage, you're doing it because somebody wants to buy a house. Sometimes it gets personal and there's animosity amongst some of the people that are in the transaction. And I always remind people, this isn't about your relationship with that person. This is about whether you're going to buy this house. Let's stay on task. And that would be what I would constantly remind our council. And also, I'm all about team building. And when people, may smile, but, if you invest time in relationships, I found in my life, just like with my wife and my family and my business, when you invest time with people, it pays dividends. And people appreciate you listening to them and caring about them. And I do believe that the people that serve council want a beautiful, wonderful city, a better Beaumont. And, I feel like we've stalled in recent years, and I don't feel like we're going in the direction that we need to go. And I feel like we lack vision. And I believe that we can build a vision that we can make quite a bit of significant progress here in Beaumont. Beaumont has grown. It just hadn't grown like it should in the last several years.
What specifics do you have in terms of things that you would change there? Is it drainage? Is it water you would tackle early on? Is there a particular area like that you would mention?
You are asking great questions, and I will say why I'm running is, I think we need a vision. We need clarity on where we're going and how we're going to get there. But we also have to have the metrics to see if we're getting there. We can talk about us doing better, but there are metrics that should be available with regard to sewer line. On the current website, it talks about being able to replace 3,000 feet of sewer line per month, but you don't know what sewer line was replaced. You don't know what sewer line is going to be replaced. Same with water line. I mean, we've got, our city's been around, over 100 years, and there are areas that need additional care. You've got to replace water lines. You've got to replace sewer lines. You've got to repair and replace streets, and you've got to deal with drainage. But there's metrics for all of those. And I believe the metrics, I don't believe in necessarily emotional responses. I feel like we need to get good data so we can look at it and the public can see it, not just council, but it being transparent across social media, across the website, so that we can see if we're doing better on our, in terms of water, sewer. So I don't think there's one issue that you can just focus on. You've got to look at the whole scope and then deal with it all, because nobody wants one of the other areas, whether it's drainage, whether it's roads, to not be taken care of.
Well, we saw metrics on the busing system, for example. Are you in favor of the bus system in Beaumont right now? Are there major changes you would make to the bus system, for example?
I don't know the answer to that because I haven't seen sufficient metrics. I know my understanding is, I believe it was November.
Not ready to commit on that.
Maybe November or December, that a new company got the contract for our bus system, our transportation system. Okay. Prior to that, it was held by the same person. Our bus system is contracted out.
Yeah.
Those employees are not City of Beaumont employees.
What about term limits? What are your views on term limits?
I'm 100% behind term limits.
Would you commit to a particular term that you would hold and leave office, or?
Well, at this point, yes. I mean, my thought is, with the current 2-year term that they have, I would think 3 terms for me would be sufficient. This has not been a lifelong dream to be mayor, and it's not something that I want to do for a long period of time. I believe bringing in fresh faces on city council is important, because we are a council manager form of government. So the city manager is who runs the day-to-day operations of the city, but we need a council that has oversight and is interested. I think if you've been on there too long, you may quit asking some of the questions. It's not any one person's fault. It's just complacency of having been there. So
are you, and I hate to ask the question because I know many candidates see the mayor's race as a apolitical race, but they beat me up if I don't ask. Are you a conservative or are you a liberal?
Well, it certainly can depend on the issue, but my most honest answer is, in the last 3 primaries, I voted Republican. So, and by Texas, that defines you as a Republican in the primary that you vote in. That's public record. So anybody out there, if you're ever curious about whether somebody's a Republican or Democrat, it's what I've been told, it's determined by what primary you vote in. Your last primary is whether you're a Republican or a Democrat.
Of course, the 258, I believe it is, of the election code that says I won't engage in negative campaigning. Have you been? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that. However, that is who I am. I mean, I'm not going to go negative on anybody. And quite honestly, I wouldn't. If that was the only way to get there, Roy would never be mayor.
Are there surrogates on your campaign that are pulling shenanigans right now?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and if you found out that there were,
sure.
Then what would happen?
Well, I mean, if you want to be specific, I'd be happy to answer. But my experience is people have their own voice. I haven't directed anybody to do anything.
That's a fair answer.
And I would never do that, and don't agree with it, and hadn't engaged in such things. However, if there's something I could do to stop negative campaigning, negative campaigning doesn't make a better Beaumont. And it's not something that I support. And it's just like a negative city council doesn't make for a better Beaumont. We have to work together. But that's been my goal in my business. And when people ask that question, best thing they can do is go and see how I lived my first 60 years. And, because at this point, other people get to help write your narrative, when you're running for a public office. And I knew that when I got into it. And I don't have a problem with that. But I'm also not going to get caught up in the fact that other people are saying things that I can't control, because that's going to happen anyway.
Shenanigans are being played to the extent that personal attacks are being made about some candidates.
Right. And I have heard that. And all I can say is it's absolutely not true. I'm not in shenanigans with anybody. I desire to have a good relationship with everybody on council, because we should. Everybody on council ought to get along, because if not, they're disrespecting the constituents of that ward, or whether they're running at large. So it's certainly something that we all need to work to get along. But I can't begin to say that I'm going to be able to control how other people behave. Hopefully, if I get elected mayor, it's not going to be about Roy. It's going to be about the city of Beaumont. But it's about better relationships and communication with other entities, and as well as better communication on the council and a better vision for Beaumont. I mean, I think right now we could all agree, and certainly one reason I got in the race, even though there's other candidates, I think our city council has lacked vision. I don't think anybody can tell me where we are looking to be 3, 5, 7 to 10 years from now, and also in terms of the metrics on how we're going to get to those places.
Now, would that imply that you would engage in large-scale infrastructure changes, for example? If there's been no vision in the past, then possibly big things would happen in terms of infrastructure?
So I believe citizen advisory committees, I believe in citizen committees are very important because they can help, they can become ambassadors. And I think that could be important for your public works. We certainly already have that with police, but use that to help to keep the public informed, because narratives, right now on social media, somebody can say something. And for some people that follow that person, they can think that's true. Well, if there's no other narrative, they may just go with that truth. Well, I think the city needs better narratives. And part of that is you get that from having ambassadors, that are not just council people, but also in terms of providing the metrics to whatever it is we're talking about, whether it's crime, whether it's our water system in terms of repair, in terms of replacement of lines, whether it's sewer, whether it's roads, whether it's drainage, there's numbers for all that. And that's not sexy talk, that's not fun talk, but at the end of the day, numbers tell the truth.
And Roy, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you.
Well, Kevin, I thank you, and I appreciate all that you do and by keeping people informed here in Southeast Texas. And I thank you for allowing me to be on today.
You betcha. And we'll see you next time here on 1813 Fair Warning.